Amanda Chetwin-Coanson is the co-founder of the anti-Brexit campaign called For Our Future's Sake. Torrin Wilkins studies politics at Aberystwyth University and is chair of Liberal Leave. And Rob Bates is a campaigner for Leave Means Leave, who supports a no-deal Brexit. Hello, all of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, one by one, let's start with you, Amanda, please. What's your message for Theresa May, your kind of one-line message for Theresa May today?
That she made a commitment that Parliament would get a say on her deal and she should follow through with it.
OK. Torrin?
I think the withdrawal agreement is a good compromise, but I think that the next step should be go to a Norway-style deal. OK. And Rob?
Have a bit of confidence in this country. Let's go global. Let's go WTO.
OK. But now there was a little snort of derision I'm feeling there a bit, Amanda. Can you explain? Well, no, we're going to have a lovely, polite conversation. I know we are, between the three of us. We're all grown-ups. None of us really know what's going on. I think we can agree on that. Not fully. So let me start with you, Amanda. Now, you are a Remainer. Where are you at then? Why do you not feel positive about the prospect of a no deal in the way that Rob does?
Well, I guess there's twofold, really. It's not all about no deal, but it's also about Theresa May's deal, and neither one of them deliver on the promises that were made to people in 2016, like the large majority of my friends and family in North Cornwall who voted Leave because they were told it would make things better. Now, those promises are not going to be delivered by, and I don't think we should be having a discussion that's a false choice between Theresa May's deal and no deal, when actually there is the option, and it is still on the table, of our current deal, and then actually being able to get this country back into a national conversation around the topics that people want to discuss. There's a lot of this false narrative has been set up recently in Parliament that these are the only two options, but we're not, and we're starting to see that actually there is a growing momentum in Parliament for a people's vote to take this back to country, because it's a complete and utter impasse over there right now.
Torrin, you are a Leaver, but a Liberal Democrat Leaver. I mean, how would you describe your position right now?
I'd say my position right now is that I don't really favour either a no deal or Remain. I see them as both the worst two options. I think we had a good deal at the beginning. We got offered a Norway-style deal by Michel Barnier, and I think that is the deal that we should be going for now. I think the issue is there have been so many lies told about it that actually a lot of people believe things about it that aren't true. And I think that is the main issue. The fact is, with the withdrawal agreement that Theresa May has negotiated, that is just getting out of the European Union. A lot of stuff in there will be replaced by the future political declaration. And that's where I think a Norway-style deal would come in. But I think overall, at the minute, the situation is not brilliant. OK. Rob, you're feeling... I'm going to stick my neck out and say you're probably one of the only three people I'm chatting to right now who actually feels positive about the next week or so. Is that going too far to suggest you feel positive right now? Cautiously positive?
I wouldn't say positive, considering the MPs we've got in Parliament. We've seen throughout this entire process that they do all they can to undermine Brexit, to drag their heels, to slow it down, to try and use convoluted parliamentary methods to prevent us actually leaving. So I wouldn't say I'm too optimistic, given who we've actually got in the Houses of Parliament at the moment, debating. I suppose if your preferred exit would be a no deal, the more narrative we hear at the moment is that's the most likely outcome right now. Well, it's the default. MPs did legislate for us to leave on the 29th of March of this year, which is in 18 or so days. So that is where we're heading, unless parliamentarians can pull themselves together and put their heads together and figure out a way to connive and conspire to stop the democratic decision that we took. OK, well, look, Rob, you tell Amanda and Torrin why a no deal would be a positive for this country, because they both passionately feel that is not the best. I mean, also, of course, Torrin doesn't believe the Remain is the best deal either. So tell him why you think the no deal is the way to go and to have a bit of faith. Well, we'd start off with the 39 billion, which could be invested into, all kinds of stuff that we, as you say, rightly point out, that you need to be prioritised. Now, we could invest our 39 billion. It would end the business uncertainty, because we'd instantly be on trading terms that are known around the world. We'd be able to take back a table on top seats of international bodies unabated and with our own clear voice. We'd be able to actually go forward and start striking those free trade deals that are in the interests of our generation. These are the deals with India, Brazil, the likes, that are really, really going to serve our generation the best going forward. Before I let Amanda and Torrin just reply to that, just a question. You must also be concerned about
about the timetable here, because you know, we won't, as a UK, won't be able to have frictionless tariff-free trade even under WTO rules for up to 7 years if we have a no deal, simply because, and this is what a lot of European Union law specialists have been saying, because of the sheer amount of legislation that would need to go through.
But I think this sums up where our horizons are set in here. Why are we only looking at what our trade with Europe will be like? Why aren't we looking about augmenting our trade with countries around the world?
Oh, well, no, sorry, this is around the world. I think just the experts happen to be that is their specialist subject, but they're talking about the fact, you know, there are 5,000 plus product lines and all these things that are covered by WTO rules. 120,000 EU statutes. They can't just copy that into UK law and say, well, here we go, we'll keep trading. WTO rules won't allow that. So well, there'll still be a bit of a delay is what I'm saying.
I mean, if you look at things like the World Customs Organization and things like the technical barriers to trade, the sanitary and phytosanitary, there are measures in place to keep trade as seamless as possible. But what we've got to realise is that this is a whole shifting of our worldview. We can't just put all our eggs into the used basket. We've got to sort of embrace the emerging markets of the future. And that is ultimately what Brexit's about.
OK, Amanda, let Rob know what you think.
I think the idea that even just going for a no deal would end business uncertainty is, if anything, actually slightly naive. Like, business is already in uncertainty. That's why you've got everybody from car manufacturers saying they're going to pause work after March 31st, all the way across to assets being moved out of the United Kingdom. And again, there has to be a real level of accountability here. Everything that comes with a no deal Brexit, and even with Theresa May's Brexit deal, her bad Brexit deal, was not promised in 2016. The gap between what people told they would be delivered and what is potentially about to be delivered is just huge, and it is really not okay for members of parliament, very elite members of parliament like Michael Gove and Boris Johnson, to play off people's legitimate fears and deliver something that ultimately is not going to make their lives better.
And Torrin, you are, I mean, feeling similarly concerned about what the next week or so may unfold, but for different reasons to Amanda.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 3 points I want to pick up on. The first is about £39 billion, but actually compared to trade with the European Union through the single market, that's pocket change. I think as far as WTO terms go, the only country that trades solely on WTO terms is Mauritius. That's it.
Yeah,
it would be the UK.
But we wouldn't be solely on WTO terms. So we have got a lot of hundreds of bilateral investment treaties. So this idea that we're No, on our own that we can negotiate before the Lisbon Treaty.
Well, that's the problem. All of our bilateral deals have been done through the European Union. Our trading relationship
these are 100 that came into force before we signed the Lisbon Treaty.
But could those be pinged back into reality for 2019?
These are UK-specific bilateral deals.
But I think that's the problem, because after the Lisbon Treaty with the UK, we have given up our competency to the European Union to make bilateral free trade deals. And so the problem is there that actually that's just not enough to sustain a free trade relationship. And I think that's the problem. That would be my third point, which is on the day we exit the European Union, we leave without any free trade deals with the rest of the world because they were all done through the European Union.
No, I just said that they're not. They're not.
That's the problem. They are.
We're talking
not free trade deals. But you're talking about as if we're crashing out and there's not going to be anything in place for the trade with the rest of the world. That's simply not true.
But isn't that legislation many, many decades old?
No, some were signed right up until 2009 before the...
So just one decade old.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Look, do you know what? Do you know what's really curious about these conversations that we're still having is, in a way, I don't feel these conversations have moved on a lot for about a year. You know, in terms of why on earth are we 18 days away from the 29th of March and yet still we don't really, any of us seem any clear about what actually might happen. Look, we sadly don't have much time, but if I can just do one more round and just say, you know, stay with us, but just one more round and say, what do you think, Amanda, is going to happen this week? We talked about the flowchart with Matt Cole beforehand. What do you think is going to happen? Sorry to give you a crystal ball.
No, what I think will happen is what I think should happen is MPs should reject her bad Brexit deal. They should definitely reject the absurd notion that no deal is feasible for this country. And they should support an extension of Article 50 so we can finally get some clarity and some closure on this entire conversation.
OK, Torrin.
I mean, I suppose I'm going to say what politics people should never say, which is, I have no idea. Because at the end of
I think
the
that's
day,
quite honest. Yeah.
yeah, because at the end of the day, there are competing factions. And I think had there been a Norway deal to start with, perhaps it would have got through. But actually, I think the problem now is that we have no deal has dug in, Remainers have dug in, and self-Brexiteers have dug in as well. And actually, to get a deal would be quite difficult. So I think actually it's 50-50 between no deal and the withdrawal agreement. But I just don't see much chance of a second referendum.
Rob.
I think there's going to be a parliamentary stitch-up, either through the deal actually going through, which I don't think is the most likely, or an extension of Article 50. And that's why I'd encourage your listeners to join Leave Means Leave on the March to Leave, starting in Sunderland this Saturday.
Okay, thank you to all of you. Thank you as well for all your messages. Hello, back to you. Amanda Chetwin-Cohenson, who's here, the co-founder of Anti-Brexit Campaign for Our Future's Sake. Torrin Wilkins also here, who's chair of Liberal Leave. I mean, Amanda, it's interesting again there's that fear, isn't there, of what the future may be, and of course this runs both ways. Some people call it project fear, other people say, well, no, this is very deep seated because we don't know what the future may hold. You are supporting another referendum. What would be on that ballot paper?
Well, so at FFS, we've always been incredibly clear that we do think the option of staying with our current deal should be on there.
Okay.
But actually, there has to be a bit of onus on these Brexiters to actually define what it is they want. Because even on this programme, Torrin and Rob have come up with different options and solutions. And actually, should it really be up to me to define what Brexit is? I've always been very clear that I think the futures of young people, including those young people from Northern Ireland that we just heard from, is best served inside the EU. And actually now it's time for the Brexiters, nearly 3 years on since we first had a vote on this, to define what it is they actually want out of this. And I think a lot of them could really do with listening to some of the young people, as we at FFS do, from places, the border in Northern Ireland, from Scotland, from the Welsh Valleys, etc., where people have really legitimate concerns about what Theresa May's bad deal and the potential of a no deal could do. And I think it's just time that actually Brexiters had a look in the mirror and thought, what is it that I can actually deliver? What can I actually deliver for these people before I run around making promises?
Well, Torrin, I mean, you haven't run around making any promises, but you did vote Leave. So, what do you think? I mean, how do you feel about another referendum? It's an incredibly divisive idea. What's your thought on it?
I personally feel that until the UK has actually left the European Union, which is what was on the ballot paper, I wouldn't support another referendum simply because it's literally replaying the last one before we've even carried out the mandate of the first.
Okay.
So I think if there was another referendum, though, I would add the question on there, which would be, would you like to either remain in the single market or the customs union, which are the off-the-shelf options, or would you like to leave without a deal? And that would probably be just before we start negotiating our future relationship. And you could always have one between the withdrawal agreement and no deal in order to do that. That's, I think, the options I would want for any other referendums in the future. I don't think revisiting the question before we've actually left is really a good idea. And I do think it would be divisive as well.